Hello students, welcome to my next lecture. Today we are going to learn about developing and using the service concept. I, Dr. Rohan Prabhakar Devale, welcome you all. Chapter objectives for today's session. This chapter is about how to develop and use the service concept to define and communicate the nature of the business. Also create organizational alignment, drive innovation and a strategic advantage, and design the service. So we are going to learn what is a service concept and how can the managers, that is service managers, use the service concept. We will start with the introduction. It is important to recognize that when buying or using the services, customers tend not to be simply buying the element of a service, but something much greater and usually more intangible. Looked at simply in terms of its elements, a hotel provides a bed, bathroom, and food. Looked at as a concept, a hotel can provide anything from low cost, comfortable night's sleep, through a relaxing and pampered stay, to a truly unique and unforgettable experience. At an elemental level, a university provides lectures, food, accommodation, and books. But what its customers are looking to acquire is something much greater and more intangible. Apart from the lectures, food, and accommodation, is an educational experience or improved job prospects. Likewise, we go to Disney for a magical experience, or maybe to a restaurant for a great dining out or great evening out, or maybe to a firm of consultants like to a psychiatrist, etc., for peace of mind. These are examples of essence of service concept. We refer to it as an organizing idea. However, to be useful to operations manager to help design, deliver and develop their services, the service concepts need to contain much more in detail. An important issue here is that the managers and staff of just above every service organizations can easily lose sight of what customers or users really want. Service providers tend to focus on their processes and the outputs of those activities rather than the desired experience and the outcomes for their customers. That is, thinking inside out rather than outside in. That concept we have discussed in previous session. We use a conference center where the delegates want a quick and simple buffet, lunch, or maybe even sandwiches, so they can get out to their workshop and get their learning experience and go home in good time. The manager, whose background was in fine dining, believes that the center should provide a three-course lunch with several choices and service at table. These different yet firmly held views often cause tensions and complaints. The nature of service provided and required tends to reside in the minds of the managers, staff, and customers, and is seldom captured and clearly articulated. Importantly, these mental pictures and assumptions about the organization's services may be different in the mind of those managers, staff, and customers. The service concept is an attempt to create a clear, agreed, shared, and articulated definition of the value of the service provided and received in order to ensure that the essence of the service is delivered. Here we have to note that when we use the word service in this particular session, we using it as a shortened version of the term service concept. It should also be noted that marketers use the terminology similar to the service concept to describe the service promise or service proposition, that is service provided. We use the term service concept to pull together the provider's view, that is service provided, and the customer's view, that is service received or required, to help provide a shared and agreed base for design, deliver and development of a service. We will move on to the next slide that describes what is a service concept. When asked his secret of success, Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of ICA chain of furniture stores, replied, "We are a concept company." He went on to share his vision and explain the concept. Our vision is to contribute to a better everyday life for the majority of people. We do this by offering a wide range of home furnishing items of good design and functions at prices so low that the majority of people can afford to buy them. This concept has captured the imagination of both ICA's employees and customers. People buy ICA products because they are well made, stylish, and inexpensive. They also buy into the idea of self selection, self service, and self delivery, and self built as well. The service concept is an important way of capturing the nature of a service so that customers know what they are getting and staff understand what they are providing. The service concept can also be used to help develop new services. Now we will take a small case study, a case of Ice Hotel. Jackass AB is a company offering a wide range of activities such as whitewater rafting, fishing, reindeer and dock sledding tours, cross country skiing, snowmobile safaris, and guided tours. It is based in Jokkasri, a small village in Swedish Lapland, which lies 200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle by the river Ton. Here the problem was visitors were few and far between in the long, dark winter months when the term or temperature is drops approximately minus 40 degrees Celsius. Manager there, his name was Yang Wei, now president of the ice hotel, saw this as an opportunity. In the winter of 1989, he invited a group of Japanese ice artists to come to that place to carve the sculptures from the crystal clear ice that forms from the pure water of the river Ton. He then built a 60 square meter cylinder shaped igloo made out of clear ice blocks to protect the sculptures. Visitors flocked to see the exhibition in his ice gallery. One day, when his hotel was full, he was pressed by a good friend to find the accommodation for the 10 colleagues. Yang Wei could only offer them a space in his ice gallery with sleeping bags on the reindeer skin. In the morning, the guest enthused him the warm and intense experience. The ice hotel, the concept was born here. So, we can say that the service concept is something very important to service organization, but it is often not articulated, shared, or understood. It is something that is more emotional than a business model, deeper than brand, more complex than a good idea, and more solid than a vision. It is something that can unite employees and customers and create a business advantage. The service concept is shared and articulated, understanding the nature of the service provided and received, which should capture information about the organizing idea, the service provided, and the service received. We will see one by one. First is the organization idea. that is the essence of service bought or used by the customers. The service provided, the service process, and its output, which have been designed, created, and interacted by the operation using its many input resources, including the customers. The service received, that can be divided into two: the customer experience and the service outcomes. The customer experience are the customer's direct and personal interpretation of and response to their interactions with the participation in the service process and its outputs involving their journey through a series of touch points or steps. The service outcomes are the results for the customer of the service process and their experience, including the products, benefits, emotions, judgments, and intentions that we have seen in first lecture. The detailed service concept may be based upon the explicit statement made by the organization, or it may be inferred from the marketing information, either direct marketing by the organization or indirect marketing through experiences and WOM, that is word of mouth. In this figure, it is given one example of a service concept and some of its key elements for UK part theme. Just look at this figure. You can pause the video and you can read the concepts. So it is Alton's Tower service concept where we have written like what is the organization, what is the organization idea, what is service concept summary, what service can be provided and what service can be received. That can again be divided into two parts, that is service received, customer experiences and outcomes. Again, one more example of IT infrastructure support groups service concept. Again, you can pause the video and you can read the concept. Now, a service concept should provide sufficient details to make it clear what the organization is selling or providing and what the customer is buying or receiving. Thus, the service concept represents the nature of the service offerings, which guides operations staff and managers to know what is delivered and how to deliver it, and helps marketing know what to offer to the customers or users. Next is the organizing idea. The organizing idea provides a powerful way of reminding the service providers what the customer is really buying and therefore provides focus for resource allocation and service design. It acts as magnifying glass, helping the organization focus on what is important. For example, a store selling point, tools and other items for home improvement may be organized around providing the cheapest hardware in the town or enabling the customer to carry out high quality home improvements. The first idea would require an operational focused on no frills, efficiency, and economy, whereas the second idea might require investment in skilled sales staff to provide guidance for the customers as how best to carry out their it do it yourself projects. There may be more than one organizing idea for service provider. We worked with a house builder and identified that although the output of each customer was a or complete house, the outcome could be very different from the customer's viewpoint. We can take two examples. Suppose the investor. This customer is interested in a property that can rent out for the short term or medium term and sell it for longer term. The property need to be of acceptable quality in good condition. This customer is not emotionally involved in the construction process. Next is building the dream. This customer sees the house as a part of their identity. It clearly needs to be of good quality in the right location and customer is emotionally involved in the process. And customer wants to be present at the key stages of the construction process. The customer also wants to be involved in the decision making as the project progresses. Understanding the differences between the customer group is the key to success. Not surprisingly, the builder saw the second customer group as the interfering and made no accommodation for them. We will return to this theme later in this particular discussion. But it is important to understand that organization's culture is the heart of the issue here. If the organization has been successful, that is survived for any length of time, the mindset become quite rigid. So the builder believes that customers should not be involved in the construction. Getting the builder to accept a different organizing idea was a significant challenge in organizational culture terms. We will talk about the customer experience. Service academics and service practitioners are focusing more attention on the customer experience. We know that customers will often judge the quality of the outcome by the quality of the experience they receive, not least because they may have limited or no understanding of the process involved in delivering the service. The patient will normally have no understanding of the detail of hip surgery, but they will certainly able to evaluate the quality of care and attention they receive in the process. Many patients report frustration with the lack of information they receive in the course of the treatment. This may also be noted that this may not be the medical staff don't care, but more likely that they or don't understand the information which they require to do their job, that is manage the internal process. Is also interest of the patient. There see a body in a bed that needs treatment, not a human being with fears and anxieties that a little information would ease. What are service outcomes? The key point here is to recognize the subtle difference between the outcomes for the customer versus outcomes or outputs from the service process. We have taken the example in the previous chapter about the replacement of hip, whereas the desired outcome for the patient will be the working hip providing the benefit of greater mobility. The outcome from an educational process may be a student with satisfied requirement of examiners, but the desired outcome for that student will be the greater employability. This may seems obvious, but as we hinted earlier, there is a tendency to continue what some academics referred to as a provide push or provider push. Providers keep delivering what has worked in the past and what they are good at. The conference center we mentioned earlier started losing business to its competitors who provide similar meals. Their costs were lower and so they could compete at marginally lower prices, which were enough to get the business in the highly competitive market. If this company had been able to respond more rapidly, it would have been much more successful, focusing its resources and processes in different areas. There may be significant competitive advantage in recognizing how the customer needs are shifting frequently in quite subtle ways. We will talk about service values. We have discussed the service values in the first session. So, in the first session, we provided some information about the customer experiences and service outcomes. The main service outcomes are products benefits, emotions, judgments, including the values and intentions. It is appropriate here to provide a little more details about the value. An important element of the marketing mix is price. Price is the value placed on the service. This could be its monetary value, the financial price, or its comparative value if the service is bartered. The service or the price of the service may be referred to in many different ways. The price of money is called interest. The price of poor monitoring may be, in financial terms, a fine, while the price of use of the equipment may be called as rent. The cost of a service to a customer is a combination of financial price together with the cost or inconvenience or making the purchase sometimes called as the sacrifice. For example, the cost of buying the weekly groceries involves not only the monetary value of the goods but also the cost of going to the shops and make their purchases. This is only the cost of traveling by car, but also the sacrifice of efforts and time involved, which could have been put to other users. The cost of poor driving is not only the fine, but also loss of no claim bonus, higher insurance premiums, and possibly injury or even death, with the mental cost that follows. To understand the value, these costs to the customers have to be weighted against the benefits consumers perceive in the service. The benefits are not just the tangible benefits but also intangible feelings and emotions resulting from the experiences such as feeling of well-being or being recognized in a restaurant. Value therefore does not necessarily mean low price. Value is the customer's assessment of the benefits of the service weighted against all the cost involved. A key role of marketers is to try to assess and issues to understand what customer value in order to help the organization make pricing decisions. Operations management, on the other hand, is the art of creating and delivering value to the customers. The task of operation is to find the balance between maximizing the value for the customers and minimizing the cost to the organization. That is, striking a profitable or budget balance between maximizing the benefits to the customers, minimizing the financial and sacrificial cost to the customers, and minimizing the cost of the or cost to the organization. The service concept is therefore a key tool that can communicate the set of benefits, that is, tangible products and psychological experiences, to the customer in order to demonstrate the potential value of the service. It is important to emphasize that ultimate judge of the value is customer. More important still is that the real test is perceived value. Whether the customer feel that they are receiving value based on the that criteria of their own or frequently intangible or intuitional or intuitive. Here again, the service concept is central to understanding the customer requirements, facilitating the marketing in presenting the service offer in the most effective manner, and focusing the operations performance measures on those areas that have most impact on customers' requirement. We will talk about the emotional dimensions as well. The key element of the service received is the emotional dimension. The service designer and the operations manager must understand that the emotions are likely to be evoked during the customer experience and also resulting from the service outcomes. Home Depot in an American home improvement store. Its customer statement used to be, "We sell you the opportunity to improve your home and therefore your self-esteem." Home Depot understood that this emotional connection was central to their success. The customer experience was designed around the building confidence in the customer's mind that they could carry out the necessary home improvements task. And they recognize that a better home would mean better self esteem as an outcome. Home Depot was the first store of this kind to invest more heavily in employing older, more experienced staff who could advise inexperienced customer and also to provide customer demonstration to build confidence to tackle home improvement projects. In a similar vein, a UK mobile phone provider has employed gurus in their stores to solve customer problems. Their role is not to sell the products but to ensure that the customers and potential customers are happy with their purchases and understand how to get the best out of their phones. What the service concept is not. This section defining what a service concept is, it will be useful to clarify what it is not. First, we will start with the service promise. The promise defines what organization will do for the customer which may not be what the customer want. The service concept is agreed view of the service provided and received. Second, business proposition. The business proposition defines the way in which the organization would like to have its businesses or services perceived by all its stakeholders. That includes customers, employees, shareholders, and lenders. This view, however, may not be shared by customers who may perceive the nature of the service in a different way. Third aspect is 4 Ps. The 4 Ps. Services and products are sometimes described in terms of their constituent parts. The marketing literature often refer the 4 Ps of marketing. You must be aware of 4 Ps of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. Sometimes extended 8 Ps of marketing that encompasses some of the elements of the service concept, that is product, process, place, physical evidence, people, productivity and quality, plus additional marketing elements, that is price and promotion. Disconstructing a service in this way is helpful in that it allows us to identify the various elements of the concept. However, this bits and pieces approach believes the complexity of many services and also ignores the fact that customers' perception of service are more intangible in nature. For example, a day out at Disney's Magic Kingdom is more likely to define by its designers and its visitors as a magical experience rather than 6 rides and a burger in a clean park. So, fourth is business model. A business model describes how the organization achieves its financial goals. A no-frill airlines model is based on low cost, minimizing the airport charges, then fuel cost, employees cost, food cost, etc. providing very limited service using a point-to-point operation and appealing to large volume of cost-conscious passengers. This certainly helps describe the value part of the service concept and some of the operations too. But it misses out on more emotional level of the customer experience. Next we'll talk about vision. An organization's vision is usually concerned with where the organization hopes to be at some time in future. The service concept is usually concerned with the present, what the organization does now and what its customers think it does today. However, the service concept can be used to describe some details about a vision to help the managers bring it about the developing new services. Mission. The service concept is not usually the same as mission statement. Organizations' mission statements covers many notions from the vision statements or company's philosophy. Like vision statements, mission statements may be concerned with the future rather than today's reality. On the other hand, if they define the organization's philosophy, it is possible that they tend to be more concerned with the organization value rather than details of service that is provided and received. An idea. An idea is an initial, often confirmed notion of a service. A service concept is more complete picture which includes detail about the service provided and the experience and outcomes for the customers. Lastly, we'll talk about brand. The service concept is more closely related to the notion of the brand. However, the brand has many meanings, including the brand name, the name, design, symbol, or any other feature that identifies the service or maybe a product. Presented brand, how the organization presents itself and its promise through its marketing efforts. External brand is how the organization is presented through word of mouth communication and the media. For example, and brand meaning, the customer's perception of the organization and services. While these four perspectives may be different, a service concept is a shared view and is articulated in much more in detail. Thus, the service concept is usually more detailed than the concrete than a brand. Now we will talk about how can managers use the service concept. So that includes defining and communicating the nature of the business, creating organizational alignment, developing new service concept to drive the innovations and provide strategic advantage. So we'll talk it one by one. First, we will talk about the basic concept. At a strategic level, the service concept can be used to define and communicate the nature of the business. To create organizational alignment, to develop the new service concept, to drive innovations and strategic advantage. The concept is also starting point for development of an organizational strategy. The service concept can use operationally to help design and specify the service and assess the operational implications of those service or design changes. Defining and communicating the nature of the business. I believe that there is an opportunity for many service organizations to take control and their service concept and make it explicit. When we ask groups of individuals, managers, staff, and customers to define the service concept in a particular organization, we invariably find a range of views. Even managers working in the same department have different views about what their department does for the rest of the organization. That is the internal service concept. The problem is that what we do around here and what our customer expects are seldom discussed, articulated, and compared. Differing and unspoken perspective and assumptions results in inconsistent service provisions and confused and annoyed customers, internal and external as well. Managers here need to take responsibility for making the nature of their service explicit by ensuring a clear, appropriate marketing message to both employees and customers about the nature of the service concept. Only in this way we can help to ensure appropriate and consistent service delivery. Next is creating organizational alignment. We would argue that the service concept can therefore act as an alignment tool that links together different organizational functions with a common purpose and standard against which their actions can be checked. In this respect, the service concept acts as a lens and filter through which internal functions may see each other's roles and contributes to the service delivered to the customer. The, art, the articulation and agreement of the service concept is a mean not only of the identifying and nature of the business but also providing it with a sense of purpose and common directions. It also provides a mean of assessing and contribution and interrelationship among the various functional groups. Developing new services concept to drive innovations and provide a strategic advantage. Developing new service concept can drive innovations and provide a strategic advantage by, for example, opening up new market or differentiating the organization from the competitions. As such, the service concept provides an ideal vehicle for challenging the status quo. The mere process of writing down the key elements of each concept for the main customer groups will encourage service managers to look at some of the key assumptions that may be implicit in the current service situation. Moving beyond a potential view or potential new organizing idea to identify changes to processes, outcomes, and experiences allow the operations managers to access the desirability or viability of a new service. This can not only help the managers to understand their businesses but also challenge them to view their businesses in ways that can make it stand apart from the other organizations. Now we will just take small example or case of the Singapore Zoo. Singapore Zoo is no stranger to innovations. In 1982, the zoo started offering a new service, breakfast with an orangutan, called Ah Meng. This has now developed into the jungle breakfast and with wildlife. This morning attraction held daily from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. begins with watching the elephants' morning bathing routine followed by the chance to feed them with a selection of fruits. Guests then go to Ahmeng, that is the orangutan restaurant. This was named by Ahmeng, who died in 2008 at the age of 48. For the breakfast and some close encounters with termites, pythons, and orangutans in adjacent forest clearing. Wildlife Reserve Singapore is a public limited company owned by the government of Singapore. It is the parent company of three award-winning attractions: Singapore Zoo, Bird Park, and the world-famous Night Safari. Singapore Zoo was one of the pioneers of the open zoo concept. Here the animals are kept in spacious landscaped enclosures which try to recreate their natural habitat. They are separated from the visitors using the psychological restraint techniques based on the animal's natural instinct for defining a territory as their own, or by a natural fear of some elements such as water. Water moats, for example, are concealed with the vegetarian and drop below the line of vision. Line of vision. The result is feeling and openness, oppressive cages which typically traditional zoos are not used here. So this is about the Singapore Zoo concept. Then we will talk about designing and specifying the services. The role of service operations manager is to understand the organization's business model and to construct a service concept based upon the organization's vision, mission, brand, and new organizing idea. Having agreed and articulated the service concept, operations managers then need to design and acquire the resources, that is various inputs, and design and develop the processes and experiences required to deliver the concept to the organization's customers. Now we have just discussed about the part of the task of service design is to create the specification for the service inputs and processes and operating procedures to try to ensure that staff deliver the service consistently. A specification takes the element of the concept and identifies the quality factors associated with each. Detail details the standard to be achieved in each and organization's procedures, commonly referred as SOPs, that is standard operating procedures, to ensure conformance to the standard, that is operational control. We will discuss about assessing the implications of the design changes. The service concept can be used as a driver for long-term service development. By defining the concept, service designers can compare it to alternatives proposed or already provided by the other service suppliers to help operations managers identify the implications of chance, whether the changes are deliberate changes to the concept or an evolutionary approach with modification to process or procedures. Changes to the service concept have implications for all parts of the organization. Our research has found that there is substantial evidence to suggest that significant changes to the service concept exposes the weaknesses in the organization. Its ability to coordinate all the various constitutions and its capacity to communicate effectively both internally and externally. Such a concept audit can be achieved by using a simple profiling tool. Just look at this figure. This is changing the service concept of a museum of geology. Now, the new concept and old concept. So, the old concepts are shown in the blue line, while the new concepts are shown in the dotted lines. So, just you can pause the video and you can look at this figure. A key point here is that of alignment. It is rare that a change to the customer experience or service outcome can be made in isolation. Changes in many elements will have consequences in others. Sometimes this represents the opportunity, sometimes the potential for conflict. The use of service concept and a profiling tool allows the people involved in the design or redesign of a service to understand what is required and to assess and therefore manage the implication of changes. A small case, the Earth Gallery is at the Natural History Museum, London. From the mid 1930s to the early 1990s, the Geological Museum in Cromwell Road, London, consisted largely of taxonomical displays of rocks, germs, gems and minerals, and was a place for quiet study of rocks in boxes by the specialist geologist. They contrasted sharply with the noisy, lively, and enthusiastic atmosphere in its neighborhood. The Natural History Museum. In the 1970s, the Natural History Museum had begun a program of exhibition renewal, using the advanced and innovative methods of the display to interest and entertain visitors. To support this mission, to maintain and develop its collection and use them to promote the discovery, understanding, responsible use, and enjoyment of the natural world. Putting that mission into operation was not going to be an easy task. A survey of museum goers found that they were less than enthusiastic about the geology as a subject. It was perceived as a dry, dull, and having little to do with everyday life. In short, it was just about rocks. The perception was that the only reason you would visit something called as geological museum was because you had to pass an exam in geology. Now it is interesting to know how they have evaluated this concept. One more, we will talk about capability mapping, and then we will take a Tiklan translation agency case study. So one enhancement on the profiling tool is the identification not only of the old concept and the new requirement, but also the capability of existing services. That is its current potential. The capability involved can be used by organizations that perhaps do not have a specific new or revised service in its mind, but can use capability mapping to explore what opportunities there might be for using the operational potential. Now we are going to see one case. This explains how one organization used their capability envelope to identify the areas where the company could develop new opportunities. The case of Tiklan Translation Agency. Tiklan provided a one-stop shop for language translation. The company used 35 in-house translators for most European languages, Japanese and Chinese. Translation to the other languages was subcontracted to a network of some 3,000 translators. Though the company would handle just about the translation work, over the time it had developed a distinctive competency in translating technical documentation, particularly computer software. The majority of the software translation was the localization of the software written in English, the conversion of hypertextual help files, etc. However, Tiklan often encountered help files that lacked sufficient flexibility, and in localizing, they had to resort to developing completely new help file structures. Thus, it developed a new competency to help filing, authoring, and rudimentary programming. So, again, the capability mapping figure, you can pause the video and you can just look at this figure. Here, the concept profile mapping is mapped in figure capability mapping. Here, the profile shows where the company started, from, and the shaded portion that is in blue represents the new operational potential that Telcon developed. The dotted line indicates an idealized service concept for a new service that exploits the newly developed potential. This also highlights the gaps between the current capability and that required for the new service concept. The main areas requiring the attention and development were in quality performance and the company's ability to manage the relationship with its new class of customers. Although the translators had developed the ability to manage the relationship with clients' own technicians, Tiklan account managers lacked the technical knowledge to market and sell the new capabilities. With this, we are coming to the summary. So, what we have learned today, we have learned what is service concept. So, we will just summarize this. A service concept is a shared and articulated understanding of the nature of the service provided and received, which should capture information about the organizing idea, the service provided and the service received, the experience and outcomes. A service concept is more emotional than a business model, deeper than brand and complex than a good idea, and more solid than a vision. How can managers use the service concept? It can be used to help define and communicate the nature of the business. It can be used to create organizational alignment by developing a shared understanding and making it explicit. It can be used to develop a new service concept and drive innovations and strategic advantage. It can be used operationally to help design and specify a service. It can be used to access the implications of design changes using the capability mapping. We are having total 6 questions, 3 questions as a discussion questions. So construct the service concept for the organization, any organization of your choice. Second discussion question, select two service organizations offering similar but different services, like a fast food and a high class restaurant, for example. We may take example of McDonald and Subway, anything depending on your choice. So identify the key elements of the service concept and compare their profiles using the mapping tool. The third question, the chief executive of Singapore Zoo is keen to continue developing the zoo. Can you develop a new service concept in the existing environment? So that is the imaginary question. Again, discussion questions, particularly for managers. How well is your organization service concept articulated and shared? You may like to ask some of your colleagues to describe what the organization is providing to its customers, internal or external, and ask some of the customers what the organization provides. Second question, does your organization provide a range of service concepts? Are some of these delivered more effectively than the others? And if yes, why it is so? Last question, profile your process and access areas of weaknesses, non-alignment, and any opportunities to use it to drive the strategic advantage. So I have used the book Service Operations Management Improving Service Delivery by Robert Johnston, Graham Clark, and Michael Sherwell. Fourth edition by Pearson Publication. So you can go and refer this book. That's all for today's session. All the best for your studies. Thank you.